Okay, so I kind of wanted to make this video. It's been a couple months since I last posted one here on my YouTube channel. Welcome for those who are new, and welcome back to those who have been following me on my journey to creating a small crafting business. Um, if you guys don't know me, if you guys are new, I run a small business, and for the past couple of months, since the last time I posted anything up, which I think was very early on February, a lot of things have happened. And before I even get into the full length of it, I want to say no hate to the people. I don't want any hate given to the people that I'll mention in this video, and kind of just get into the whole gist of it. So since very early February of this year, I actually have been doing a lot of stuff. I was in the middle of a spring semester. I was under a trial run for a position in the e-board of a club that kind of had something to do with one of my two majors at my college. I just also finished my first year at college as well. And I've also been focusing a lot on my business as well. And then also I got into working with a group. And I'm going to get into that right now. So I think shortly after, not too long after the last video that I posted up, and I was getting into these crafting Friday streams I was doing for like a good while before I stopped doing that. I was part of a convention called Cosmic Con, which I didn't do good, but it was the start of me getting triple digits into various events, and it was something that I was like, oh, this could be like a progress into something new. Mind you, I've only been running my business, my small business, for at, at that point a little over 2 years, and that's where I met this dude. This dude, we're gonna call him V, because like if I call him by his Instagram username, it's gonna be weird. Anyway, everything seemed normal between myself and V for the first 2 months that him and I spoke, and everything seemed fine. Like there was people like coming and going through the guild that he invited myself along with a few other people into this guild or Discord server that was kind of like a collective whatever. And first 2 months I had no issues with him. And then I was even told that he wanted me as mod for the server, which he never promoted me or anything, which was kind of weird, right? And then April comes around. At this point, a lot of shit was happening. Basically, there was a miscommunication with me and another person. Well, like we didn't. I guess there was a bunch of miscommunications. I was led to believe that I was being used, and lo and behold, I ended up cutting contact with them. And I later rekindled my friendship with them, my relationship with them, as acquaintances through various stuff. And I only built my relationship with them after this recent fallout with V. So what had happened was the first spat that him and I had was about a comment that I had said, as out of joke. If you guys don't know me, I used to be two of my three relationships. The age gap between me and my significant other was like 9 or 10 years. So I didn't think that it was a big deal. It was only after he let it kind of build up to a point where he just let it all out that was when I found out how much of a big deal it was to him. I didn't know. He didn't tell me. And I told him straight off the bat, all I want is communication. If you want me to keep a secret, let me know so I could keep that certain things a secret, right? How it started was how the first spat started was basically because he invited another person to come with him. This was her first convention, by the way. She didn't know any better. And, he invited her to come with him to experience it. Things between both of them didn't end well. He ended up cutting contact with her after this event. Mind you, again, like, I consider communication like a high thing. And there was a joke that I made where I said, "Hey, are you two together?" As a joke. I was also kind of curious too, right? I was kind of curious, cause like at that point I'm like thinking like they're living close together, they're 10 years apart, um, stuff like that. Nobody had brought it up to me, and it wasn't until that first spat in April, late April, that he actually brought it up to me, which I understand. I told him I apologize for that. Um, I apologize to that. I didn't know. You didn't bring it up with me. Yada yada yada. Right? I literally apologized to him, which goes to say like I don't. There's not a lot that there's not a lot of things that I regret saying, but when I do feel bad, even if I do feel bad about something I made, even out of like a joking standard, I don't like I'll apologize and make it up to the person, right? That's what I do. Then he got mad at me, and I'm just apologizing, and I'm just like I'm telling him how much I want to still work with him, and it like it and like I even reiterated like, hey, just communicate with me the next time something similar to this happens, so then we can actually work through it. Then there was talks about this one convention in Pennsylvania called like Geekdom. I apologize. I applied to it, and I applied to it under his recommendation that we should do it under the collective. But then the application asked for an email, so I put my business email under it, which that's how I got denied the first time. That's how I initially got denied. He got approved for it, and then he tried to invite me, which I was totally unsure about, because if I got denied and he got approved, I don't want to steal his spotlight, right? He did pixel or like perler bead art, like, or what is essentially what he considers pixel art, under perler bead method. And I do mainly crocheting, but I also do soaps and candles now. And I did my best to get into, like, I wanted to still get into it. However, I quickly come to realize that, you know, how things were happening, or how things were, like, the day came closer, I told him, like, I was unsure about actually going, because things happened, things came up, and essentially I couldn't make it. And I did tell him that I couldn't make it for a number of reasons. One, I didn't have all the money together by the time he wanted me to pay for it. Because also something came up with my parents that didn't come up. I was dealing with. Give me a moment. I was also dealing with the 1 year anniversary of one of my grandma's deaths. There was a number of things that were happening. I was not in the right mindset to actually go. I'm sorry. I tried to basically explain to him these things, and I tried to do it in the best way I possibly could. Mainly because I didn't have the money to go and give him, and I try to explain I didn't think I didn't think I wasn't gonna be able to go until like we got closer to the date. And so and this was the second around the time, like this was in like I think like around the time that I wasn't feeling okay mentally, and I tried explaining this to him, and he also wanted me to come to his house, which I was uncomfortable with, and he didn't know this, but like he kind of showed it, like how he felt about me in the first spat, and I'm gonna kind of like reiterate this part. Prior to joining in on the entire Discord server he created with someone he knows from the other side of the country, um, I used to have a little bit of a crush on him, and then he said let's just be friends, which I was okay with, and I moved on. By the time the second spat had happened, he already knew I was kind of talking to somebody else, and like by the time the first spat came around, um, he literally, when I told him I was talking to somebody else, he was like, "Don't try to get me jealous," which kind of shows that despite me moving on, he may have developed feelings for me, which when I saw this as the first bat, kind of surprised me because I thought he said let's just be friends. And then by the time the second spat came around, I decided to keep it private, right? Because this private spat was going on between me and him. He made it public with this other person that's from like I haven't physically met them, and so he literally I literally felt ashamed, um, from this whole thing. I told him, hey, just kick me, because I didn't want to prove to him how I felt at that point in time. And so he initially did kick me, right? But then he brought me back into the server under specific rules where I wasn't allowed to come any of the tavern chat meetings they had about different conventions and stuff, which I agreed with. I was only allowed to come in to game nights and movie nights, and I was okay with it. So that's what happened. And then he was like, "Oh, I feel bad. I Do you want to still come to that geekdom?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure, whatever." And then he said the only way we're gonna get there is if you come to my place. Now he lives in a place where my parents don't agree that I should go there by myself. And I asked him like, "Hey, did should I meet you at the Lancaster station in order to, cuz like the event was happening in Pennsylvania, that Geekdom Con." And I said, "Hey, can I meet you in one of the stations by Pennsylvania or by Manhattan?" And he was like, "No." And I was trying to explain to him, like I was trying to give him updates, right? And I ended up saying, "You know what? It's much better if I don't go with you because this is being a little bit too much." And he saying he was starting to get frustrated about it. So yeah, like it's much better if I don't go with him. Which everything seemed fine until quite recently when I told him that I wanted, like I invited him to come to Shore Leave with me next month. If you guys don't know, I'm going to Shore Leave, which is in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and this event is kind of like a sci-fi related convention. This is my first time actually officially doing a 3-day con because I've only done like 2-day cons, 1-day conventions, done flea markets that and street fairs and like events that were mainly like 1 days, but like multiple, like I could do multiple different times. And like the amount that I would pay would be there's only 1 day I've done like events like 4 times, like the event like for 4 days, and that was I could choose which days I could come. But anyway, at some point I invited him. We had planned on how we were gonna pay for the event in like the hotel room, and then it was, the main thing was all about the what time we should take the train or Amtrak to get there. Now, I don't know how to exactly screenshot some of the messages that we had. So we like I was busy from the first, like the week leading up to the first, which was I was part of the event called Hasbrook Heights Spring Street Fair here in New Jersey, and then I was getting stuff prepped for the Kids Fest that was happening in Elmwood Park, New Jersey. And those were the two events that was gonna do leading up to um, the two events I was gonna do in June that was gonna lead up to shore leave. And at some point, um, I asked him on the 10th, hey, how's it going? He said he's been sick. Um, which I forgot that he got sick. And he says it went great. I'm like, hey, did I miss anything? And then on the 12th, this was like the morning after there was a meeting. And I said, hey, did I miss anything at last night's meeting? We, and then that's when he started asking me, he didn't message me until like almost 5 in the afternoon, hours after I messaged him, which I messaged him at 11, almost 11:30 in the morning. And he says, we really need to make arrangements on how we're going to get to shore leave. Also, what time frame are we allowed to set up on Thursday? If they send you any emails regarding any information for the convention, please post it on the server in the appropriate channels. Um, at to this point, it's already like late June, like the 27th of June, by the time I'm actually making this video, and I still have yet to find out the times of when the setup time would be. Probably won't find out for another like week. And I said, okay, I'll make sure to find out. I was gonna try to travel to you either Wednesday night or Thursday morning, but I feel as though Wednesday night would be better. Not sure about when we can set up on Thursday. I'll send them an email in the morning, which I did. And this was like, he messaged me 4:51, and I did message him that like almost 12 at night. And I think at that point I went to sleep from 9 p.m. to like around that time, and then went back to sleep, and then woke up the following morning to send them an email. And I said, all right, but you're going to be to have to find your way to get there. And then it was like kind of like a back and forth thing where I was trying to like double check just to make sure and stuff. And a couple days go by. I didn't hear from him from like the 13th to when he reached out to me on the 16th. Now at this point, this is when I start messaging him as soon as possible, within an hour. And he's like, bro, we gotta get our train tickets before they get too expensive. I'm getting mine tonight. I said, okay, what time do you want to leave? And then I messaged him that not even 10 minutes later, right? And then he hasn't responded in a couple hours. And then by the time 8:45 rolls around, I said, hey, just wanted to follow up on when you want the both of us to meet at Lancaster Station by. At this point, I already made the choice to actually travel from the Penn Station here in New Jersey all the way to Lancaster. Because it was just easier for me to go from there, like get dropped off to the Penn Station in my state, and then just travel there. It would just be easier. It wouldn't make any sense logically to travel to New York, to the Manhattan, to the Penn Station there, and then travel from there to over there. It was gonna cost too much for me. I was like, I'd much rather travel from where I live to get there. And he didn't message me until like almost 11 o'clock at night. Kind of going on about, oh my goodness. I like, at this point, he's not spelling much stuff right. And he's not even, in some sentences, he's not spelling stuff right. He's not being grammatically correct in some other sentences, which I'm an English major. One of my two majors is English. So when I try to read this, I try to make sense of it. Like, at least I can make sense of it because most of it's correct. And he says, oh my goodness, no, no, we can both meet in the city at Penn Station to take the train together. What are you on, bro? Mind you, I've never done any illegal drugs. I've never smoked weed, never, barely ever drank. Like, I think, like, since 2022, I've only drunk alcohol 3 times. And one of them, I haven't even drank a full thing of, like, of a alcoholic seltzer. And, like, I think I probably drank a third of that. And at that point, I wasn't even drinking that day. So I'm like, and then he is saying, I'm saying you're gonna have to get there on your own by paying for your train ticket. My phone was still in the AC, and I'm not okay. Please do better. And I respond with, not even like 12 minutes later. Okay, I'm trying to confirm how we're gonna get to Lancaster together. I didn't know your phone got stolen. I didn't know. I'm literally trying to communicate with you about whether or not we were going to meet by the Lancaster station or by Penn Station, either in Newark, New Jersey or New York City. I'm sorry if you got mad somehow and I didn't know. And he responds not even like 5 minutes later. It's just frustrating trying to plan some something properly. He says someone, but like, and you're not available doing God's know what. Mind you, I had on Do Not Disturb, but I was still responding to him like pretty decently. And the excuses of chores and shit is pretty weak when we all got shit going on, you know? It doesn't take an arm and a leg to communicate for 10-15 minutes just to make sure we're getting there, so I'm not left in the dust with excuses. I wasn't home, I was working 3 days. I set up two meetings for us to talk about it, which I was unaware about it. I was literally busy doing other stuff, getting stuff made for various events. And he says, before the con even happened, I was swamped with shit to do. Same here. And he said, get off red would be a good start, which meant, like, he wanted me to get off Do Not Disturb. I was on Do Not Disturb quite a lot. But that was because I was busy making stuff. Because I'm mainly a crochet, like a small business making mainly crochet stuff. So I was spending 12, 13 hours making stuff. And even right now, I'm making, like, I was in the midst of making stuff before deciding to make this video. And so when I spend like 12, 13 hours making stuff, it's not, like, if I put myself on Do Not Disturb, that doesn't mean people shouldn't reach out still about certain things that are important, right? And he says, so you can actually see my messages on time. And then I responded back to him about not even 5 minutes later after that. Said, I'm sorry that I haven't made myself available. I didn't technically lie when I had stuff to do myself. I do still see your messages and I do respond as hastily as I can. Sorry if that wasn't me being fast enough for you. I did have things outside of the plans and I wasn't exactly feeling well. Because at that point, Sunday and Monday, when was the 16th? 16th was Monday. That day I was starting to feel better, but I was still feeling kind of sick. I wasn't, like, I think I was having so much fatigue from putting so much work and effort into making stuff that when he was messaging me this, I was like having none of it. I was having none of it. And I said I'll try to do better next time. And then I quickly moved on from it, saying, so what time did you want to meet up for the trip to Penn Station? And he messages back saying, the perfect time we need to be there to set up for the con, which you still have not provided. At that point, I still didn't get anything. As of right now, I still didn't get any more information on that. And he says, so how the hell would I know? I said, I haven't gotten the specific time yet, but I do know the person in charge says that she will provide an email stating when on Thursday we can set up. That's the only information I got at that point. I still haven't gotten any information on that a week and a half later, which I can assume that she's just busy. The people that are doing these conventions are busy. It doesn't matter how small or how big a convention is. There's always a lot of things that need to be done, so people need to be patient. This is him not being patient, and on this information, and he then responds with, "Nobody says you're lying, but you gotta make time if you're serious. I caught a fucked up flu on Thursday. Still did Brooklyn Comic Con all fucked up and sick, and still had to prep and help my mom during the week getting ready for KamehaCon, which I just did in AC or in Atlantic City. I'm still sick, by the way, coughing and shit. Now I now got Undiscovered this upcoming weekend, so honestly, I don't want to hear I'm too busy and shit when majority of the planet are glued to their phones. I'm not buying it. Sorry, not sorry." Then he say in that message, "Nobody said you're lying." But then saying, "I'm not buying it, sorry, not sorry," does not make no sense. He then follows it up with, "And I still made time for you and others in other meetings, so come on, Donna, what the fuck?" And I don't think I did not notice you immediately hit me up after movie night was over, as if you were looking and seeing when we got out of the tavern. Which I don't have, the messages aren't there. As far as I know, when I messaged him, it was the Tuesday after a meeting that he did with another person. Normally we hold movie nights on a Thursday. Well, he does. Anyway, and he says, "You messaged me a split second after, right after, and you've done it before too, so don't give me that." Okay, first off, he doesn't. There's sometimes where I have messaged him. Yes, I would agree on that. But this time around, I didn't. However, I just went on with it and just said, "Okay, first off, I messaged you after I had a bunch of chores around the house, as well as helping my dad with stuff. Again, I'm sorry if I didn't make this the time to come into the tavern chat to speak with you. If me trying to speak with you either on Friday when you were in EC, or today when I didn't realize you were sick and all this had happened, how was I supposed to know all of that? I was really busy with other stuff outside of the collective." And he put a thumbs down under each message that I responded with, and he then responds with, "Because you haven't been around lately or kept up with your personal DMs, I'm always hitting you up first," which isn't true. I've been hitting him up more times than he's been hitting me up. And he says, "So fuck your excuses, bro. I'm done with this conversation. Good night." I says, "Okay, you haven't always hit me up. There have been times where I hit you up, but okay." I left it at that. And then he wanted to get the last word, and he ended up saying, "And you still gotta argue?" He didn't even spell argue right. You really want to compare your busy life and mine? I don't think so. I think you need to sit down, reevaluate your shit, get it together." And that was when I realized that I had a lot of thinking to do. I spent a little over an hour trying to calm myself down, think about what had happened, decided to leave the server. Not only that, but I sent him one final message a little over an hour later saying, "I have decided to just part ways with you, with the Creators Guild, and part ways with the Creators Guild and with you. I feel as though this time was going to come, and I feel that because of our few differences, it would be easier if we parted ways. The way you've responded to other times as well as tonight isn't something I can take any longer. And as you said, I need to reevaluate my shit, and I did. I wish you the best of luck, and after this, I won't message you again," which I have stuck to it. And I think I could show it because, like, at this point I've read through it, And like this is all these are all the messages like I was reading, right? And you could tell like I literally was being respectful, was trying to be respectful, right? And you guys could pause through all this to actually read through it if you guys want to, because I was just trying to explain myself. I didn't need to actually show any proof or anything, right? And like this was the last message I sent him, right? So you guys could tell I'm reading it based off of what is here in the Discord chat in this most recent spat, this third spat, by the way. I would never try, like I would have to give people multiple chances to fix their behavior, and if they don't fix their behavior, that is when it's much easier just to part ways with somebody. And I when I tell you that I had such an anxiety attack during the second spat that happened in May of this year, I literally felt I literally felt so cold in most of my body and hot on my face. And um this time in this spat, he this spat had caused me, like I had like at that time I started to like not eat often. And I ended up like the following day after this whole thing on the 17th, when this whole thing happened, a couple hours later, I ended up like I and when I went to sleep and I woke up the following morning, I was fine, but I was a little dizzy. But I wasn't feeling too bad. Like I started feeling dizzy that Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. I had some chicken. I made myself some chicken, and then the dizziness was still there. Um, I had a glass of ice cream, which I thought would help me better. It wasn't helping me. I went to sleep for like 3 hours, and then when I finally woke up, I was still dizzy, and I ended up trying to see if it was all about like what was actually wrong with me. And I had like two small things of crackers, like from the Ritz things, you know, those miniature ones that only come in like one or two servings. I had two of those and a bagel of cream cheese, thinking that I would feel better, and I ended up throwing up because that's how much I got sick again. Sunday and Monday, I had slept through most of the day because I was feeling fatigued. And then from late Tuesday night all the way up until this past Sunday, on I think when was Sunday? Like the 22nd was when I was feeling still feeling dizzy. Luckily, it was only that one time that I threw up, and I literally wasn't lying when I said I was sick. I literally wasn't lying when I said I had stuff to do. I was creating a whole bunch of stuff, doing chores around the house, or at least helping out. Um, and I was doing my own stuff, and what I was doing, he made it feel insignificant. So I decided to just part ways with him because it felt like it was the best thing to do. And it was better than just trying to talk him out of being a little shit. You know, because he's a couple months younger than me. I'm 32. My birthday is like literally in 3 weeks. And his birthday is literally in October. We were both born in 92. And so to see someone acting like a kid over something I didn't have the information about, it was kind of wild to see that somebody who's acting like that, and he's never properly planned anything for shit, or treat me like shit. And then I come to find out when I rekindled when I connected to two of the people that he actually kicked out for stupid reasons that he should have just spoke to them about. I come to find out that I wasn't the only one that he was acting like that towards. There was someone who he's known during his entire time making pixel art, all this stuff, and selling it at events. Like, he's known her this entire time, the entire 10 years that he's been doing his stuff. And she explained to me that he was trying to host his own event, but he was putting all the information, like all the stuff on her to do. Which was kind of weird, because why are you making somebody who has been trying to help you out for like 10 years, that you've been working with, you've been friendly with, you know all her shit, and you treated her like garbage when she was helping you. I even helped him out. I made flyers for him. Did I get a thank you? Did I get paid to make the flyers for him for some of the prices that he had for his items? No. No thank you. No payment, no exchanges on anything. I've helped him out. I saw what he was trying to do for his dream. And I'm surprised he hasn't reached it yet on his own. That he's like putting all this stuff on other people. Like, he's making other people do the work for him. And that's not okay. How is it that I'm like 2.5 years into my business, and I already have my first international show later this year, and he's been doing this for around 5 times longer than I have, and he still has yet to go to an international convention. And I'm the one with my own actual website, my own tax ID. He doesn't even have a tax ID for his business. He doesn't have his own business. He doesn't have his own website for his business. He all of the money that he's making is based off going to various events and trying to avoid so hard to get a tax ID number for his stuff. And that is fucked up. Like, it's kind of like he's escaping responsibility. He's like, yeah, there's some things that I did that may have been like, I would say, like, I'm not sure how bad, like, how fault I am on it myself, but I would take responsibility on my end for the things I've said, things I've done. But he has yet to take accountability for the stuff he's said and done to me. So that's kind of just wrong in hindsight. You know, I've been there for him. I still care for him. But, like, how you act like that and you haven't tried to do your best to be great, right? And there were so many plans that he wanted to do with me. You know, like, we do VR chat and we talk about conventions, post it up on a YouTube channel. He's never done that. I've been waiting for him for nearly 5 months to plan a day of when we were going to do it. He hasn't done it. That's why I haven't made a YouTube video in like nearly 5 months. Like, him and I was like kind of expecting him to reach out to me about it, but he hasn't yet to reach out to me about it. And it's been a couple months. Every time I bring it up, he's like, oh yeah, no, we'll do it on VR chat. Mind you, I said, let's just do it as like a podcast, but not under VR chat. He hasn't sit down and try to do it. Where is it? Because as far as I know, it's like, it's more invisible than my love life, than my relationship. And I'm single. I've been single. Um, yeah, so basically he's like, the ideas that he has is more invisible than, yeah, my, like, my boyfriend. And I don't have one. And it's weird that I have to say it like that. Um, talk about, like, how very single I am because of this whole situation, right? And obviously, I feel like I have a right to, like, put this whole thing out there because I need, like, I feel like I got fucked over, basically. And I was led to believe that all these things were happening when in reality, he barely did anything other than, like, and I was the one that was giving out, as from what he claims, is giving out the most amount of information about conventions, street fairs, markets. I was the one that talked about the Asian Dream Food Festival in New Jersey that was happening by American Dream Mall. I was the one that was trying to get contact, and I asked him if he wanted it. He said no. You keep it for yourself. So where was the content he said he wanted all of us to get, and, like, he didn't make a video about it. He didn't even mention that he even made a video about any of the content that he got. So where was it? Where is it? And I'm just mad that I allowed this to happen. That I was, like, he was treating my kindness like shit that he could take advantage of. And that is just fucking wild. What I've learned from this, don't fucking trust him. I'm not trusting this dude for shit. And I feel like I'm the only one that should be able to say these things. This is my experience. Obviously, I don't want people to look him up and shit, and then find him and, like, bully him or anything. Like I said in the beginning, I don't want him to have any hate. I'm just sharing my experience with the dude. So then, if you guys want to talk to him, talk to him. I would much rather you guys talk to him with caution if you guys want to work with him. And I want you guys to kind of understand, like, where my take was as well. Because this is kind of like my tangent, my rant, all that stuff. I didn't mean for this video to go as far as long as it did, but it did, and that's the only thing I can really do about it all. And I'm not reading any script or anything. This is based off of, like, what I'm talking about, and the only reason why I'm looking off to the side is to look at, like, the camera angle, which is, like, right here, like where my hand is facing, just to look at the camera, look at myself, see how things are going. And yeah, will I make more content for YouTube in the future? I will certainly try. And I hope that I'm not going to wait for another fucking person for this. So yeah. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Again, don't say any hate to this person. I don't want him to get any hate. At this point, I just want him to apologize to me. That's the only thing I ask. I want him to also take accountability for the shit that he said to me in the past. And that's about it. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. And yeah. I'm gonna go handle my own shit now. Yeah.